Hello, my name is M. Jason Graham, and this is writing. So, this unit we're talking about, character relationships, has to do a lot with making sure that our characters are able to tell the story that we want to tell. Going back to the definition of story, story is a discussion about why you should or should not do something. And so, with our protagonist and antagonist and our foils, like I said, we want to make sure that we don't have anything in our story that we don't absolutely need in order to tell the story. So today we're going to go over character anatomy. So every character needs to be equipped, as we said before, to make the choices that can fulfill the expectation. Characters that are not structured to make conscious and informed choices about the world in which they live cheat the audience experience. Now, characters have two main components. They are reflection and reputation. So whenever I look at a character, I look at them in two parts. There are two parts to make up a character. So the character's reflection. Okay. To start with. So we talked about audience notion. And we talked about the fact that the terms protagonist, antagonist, and foil are from the viewpoint of the audience. That's the audience notion. If the audience notion is how they see the character in the capacity of the story, then reflection is how the character sees his or herself in the story. And then reputation is how other characters within a story view a given character. I know it sounds a bit confusing, but looking at it from all of these different viewpoints is very important because it prevents you from meshing things that don't need to be meshed. And as a writer, particularly when you're building an epic story and building a world, there is the tendency to get lost, to lose the forest for the trees, if you will. So, to go over that again, audience notion, whether a character is a protagonist, antagonist, or foil, that is from the viewpoint of the audience. A character's reflection is just like them looking into a mirror. It's how they see themselves. And what is the makeup of that composition? And then reputation is the character's reputation, therefore, how other characters in the story, within the story, view the character. Today, and this week actually, because we're working through my identity story, today we're going to go over the components or the different parts of a character's reflection. So, a character's reflection is broken up into actually 5 different categories. If you excuse me, I'm going to turn for a bit. Those are okay. So, within a character's reflection, you have these 5 items. five categories. Physicality, resources, psyche, stumbling block, and shifts. So, to start with physicality, everybody pretty much knows what it is, but we'll go over it. So, everything that is physical about the character. So, if it is a case of them being their eye color, what kind of hairstyle they have, what their build is, what their sex is, for instance. So, if they're male or female, of course, or they might be intersex. That information is written there. So it's those of you who know me as an old school gamer. You have a character sheet basically, or a character profile that has these elements in it. My character creation sheet, I give a pretty extensive list of elements, but you don't have to do that. It just really depends on what the scope of your story is. I would suggest that you do it, however, particularly if you're creating an epic story, because all of these things are going to be referenced about the character. And since everything won't go into the story, at least the initial first story, you will always want to go back and pull information forward, things that you can pull out to tell new stories, and so that the character can be discovered in new ways. From a transmedia aspect, you definitely want to have a document like this because it leads to being able to have conversations. Let's say you've written a story that's a novel. You can begin to have a conversation about what would it take for this to become a movie, or for it to become a television series, or for it to become a video game, for instance. So this information is vital to the longevity of your brand and the longevity of the product, if you will. So, back to reflections. So physicality is everything physical about the character that's significant. So if the character has a mole on their right cheek, unless that mole is germane or is necessary and central to the story being told, you don't need it. Those are things that are nice. Now you can put that in there, but just understand that the more stuff you do like that, the harder it becomes to keep your story centered where it needs to go. So that's physicality. Resources. So this is not just money. This is also stuff like education. It is like who your parents are, what their education was, how much money they made, what were their positions in life, what your job is, how hard your workday is. Those kinds of things. Those are resources. Psyche. Psyche is the way that you look at life, your philosophy on life, your goals. We talk about their goals and ambitions. So each character has a life goal, which is what is the thing that your character is working toward in the future, and then your ambition, which is what is the objective in the story. What is your character trying to work toward in the course of this story? Everything is, and I really, really have to reiterate this, nothing happens in a bubble. People are working toward a life goal whenever they're working toward something. It is really important that you determine what that long-term goal is, even if the audience doesn't find it out, because it helps focus the character's actions to reach toward that goal. That's going to be the way that they see life and they pursue life. Stumbling block. Okay. So I am known for making my protagonists suffer. I make characters suffer anyway, but in particular my protagonist, because we are all so hard-headed that we have to suffer in order to learn lessons. So the stumbling block section is, what is the thing, the personality defect, if you will, that stands in the way of the protagonist reaching their goal, and not just protagonist, character. What stands in the way of the from a personality standpoint, from I just don't get it standpoint, from a I don't work well and play with others standpoint. What stands in the way of that character being able to reach the goal in this story? Being able to learn the lesson, which goes back to purpose, to learn the message and learn the lesson in order to reach the goal. What stands in the way of that? That is the stumbling block. And you have to be very specific about that. Finally, shifts. Some people call them milestones, but basically they are important moments in your character's life that has shaped their psyche. So the events that happen in the character's life, the events that are relevant to them beginning the course in this story, that is a shift. Those are milestones. Generally, there's 5 of those, and we'll go over those in the coming week. So, to review, character anatomy. In order to craft the character that you need for your epic story, so for your world, in order to have a character that's able to carry the message, character anatomy is in 2 components: reflection and reputation. Reflection, physicality, the physical makeup of your character, resources, what is available at your character's disposal in order to help them get through life. Psyche, what is your character's psyche is what is your character's philosophy on life, and what are they pursuing? Stumbling block, what is it that stands in the way of your character? What's the problem, the schism in your character's psyche that could prevent them from being able to pursue and understand and get the message and be able to reach their goal in the story? And then shifts. What are the key moments in the character's life that altered their perspective on life and led them on the path to this story? My name is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This is Writing is brought to you by mjgstorycreation.com. Go to mjgstorycreation.com for your free story audit and an hour free consultation. Have a wonderful day and take care.